Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roo Hammer Season 3, Episode 24. We're going to be talking all things round 12, our devastating loss to the Knights at Fortress Redcliffe, and we'll be looking at all the other games from round 12 and previewing round 13. Before we go, though, I just want to give an extra special shout out to our fantastic Patreon members. It's your generous support that allows us to upgrade our visual presentation through Restream and bring you guys the content that you enjoy so much. So thanks, guys. Hammer, how's things, mate? How was your week?
Yeah, mate, I'm doing good. And before we get into it, just want to echo your thanks to all our wonderful supporters out there whose support allows us to do what we do each week, which is bring the best live Warriors content on all social media platforms. And just a reminder to everyone that's tuned in tonight, the reason we do the show live is to get the involvement of all those watching. So please, as we move through the many discussion points tonight, join the conversation, leave your comments. Just be aware that, who have current and ex-players and their families that watch this web, keep your comments respectful and refrain from making them personal. Mate, my week's been all right. Better weather down here in Sydney. We did have a little bit of rain yesterday, though, but nothing like. We had some good weather on Saturday for the game, didn't we? It was
absolutely beautiful day for footy, fantastic, and the weather up here has improved a lot as well. So thank goodness for that. My roof says thank you as well. Still going.
That's good to hear. Before we get into the round 12 discussion, let's talk about the pre-game meetup that we had at Dolphins Leagues Club. Hang on, mate. I'm just going to share my with you. I've got some event with our usual game day crew, and a privilege it was to meet two of the Warriors' hardest men that ever put on the jersey, in Warrior 33 Owen Guttenbill and Warrior Monty Beetham.
Yeah, mate, unexpected honour to meet those two legends of the Warriors, both Owen and Monty. They came along with Campo, and they're obviously our 2022 Warriors ambassadors. It's great that the club flew them all over for Indigenous round, and you could just awesome being in their presence. You could feel like the aura of those guys, and Arwen's a huge man. He's I didn't realise how big he is until in person. And then to chat with them pre-game was obviously a highlight of the weekend for us, and then to do a bit of a presentation for a couple of our boys in Campo and Tukes. That was pretty special for us as well, wasn't it, mate?
Mate, and Monty even made the comment to me when I explained to him what we were doing with Campo and Tukes, that how former legends is truly amazing. He's followed us from over the ditch. So to hear a guy like Monty Beetham, who's an ex-captain, and he's doing over in New Zealand where he's getting a lot of the players on, just him talk about what we do was really uplifting. And I did say to him, we haven't been able to catch a lot of his stuff. There's only 3 episodes on YouTube at the moment. And we did say, we've been very fortunate because the guys that we have on, we can just let them talk for as long as they want, whereas he's limited to a 24-minute time constraint. Time constraints. But, yeah, mate, it was great to have his endorsement on what we're doing.
Yeah, look, it's no secret that our relationship with Tukes, he's a legend, mate. He's our first former player that we ever had the pleasure of chatting to on the show for an interview, and following on from that, he's continued to be a huge supporter of what we do, always sharing our stuff, always supporting us, encouraging us. And through that support, we've built an awesome relationship with both Mark himself and his partner, Rach, as well. And it's awesome to have them as part of our game day crew now. Campo, he was a little bit difficult to nail down at first, wasn't he? Something about an 11 a.m. interview, wasn't it?
But, 11 a.m. interview.
But we were able to connect with him at Magic Round last year, 2021, and then we had him on for a chat. And since then, he's been a huge supporter of what we do, and we regularly catch up with him at the games as well.
Yeah, that's right, mate. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is those genuine connections that we have been able to make. I just see Richie Sterling's joined us. He said, really happy for you guys that you get that with such Warriors legends. It must be such a buzz. And And it is, but one of the things we, as I said, we pride ourselves on is not only making those connections and having the guys on the show, but we're able to maintain guys after we've had them on for a chat, some sort of personal relationship. We're in regular contact with a lot of our former guests. They comment on a lot of the stuff we do through social media, and that's really important to us because we don't want to be known as those guys that just, get a player on, have a chat to them, and then we really don't connect with them ever again. And we've always been really adamant too that guys like PJ Marsh and guys like that who we've had on for a chat able to meet because of geographic locations and so forth. And when we're in the vicinity of those guys, make sure that we make the effort to get them, meet them. We did that with PJ. We've done it with Brent Tate after a game. Obviously, Pricey, Michael Luck, Pricey, and so. But the relationship we've built with Tukes and Po have been far more personal than any of the others that we've been fortunate to connect with. And I guess that's simply because they make themselves far more readily available. We always say Tukes is a man of the people.
Oh, he certainly is. I had the pleasure of chatting to his mum again. Always a pleasure to have her company. And she's saying he's always been like that. He's just been always so giving freely of his time. And that's why we love him. As you said, absolute man of the people. And because of that, we had some halftone hero shirts to made up for the boys. So I've got the Tukes one here, and Hammer's got
I've got the Campo one. Yep,
Campo one. For Warrior 76 and Warrior 86, respectively. And we had those made up, and we presented them to the guys before the game on Saturday. And so we're hoping that these halftone hero shirts will be available for purchase pretty soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's. Yeah, it was a really good shout out to all those that joined us. My two daughters, Britton and Katana, were up there with us, and Lloyd Whitelaw was with us. Who else was with us? Troy was with us.
Warrior, Sean,
Warrior was
Tim,
with us.
Yep.
Yeah. Tim and his son, and of course Tukes and Rach and Tukes' mum. But yeah, it was a really great afternoon. The game itself was a huge disappointment. And tonight, other than just review the game, I thought we could just maybe have a really short review of some key moments for just having what the fuck's going on with the Warriors here.
Yeah, that's it. So tonight's show is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be very brief with our review and summation of the game. So let's get into it. So obviously round 12 of the NRL was Indigenous round. And as Warriors supporters, we have the unique distinction of our jersey being the only one that honours the Maori culture. So we discussed the jersey last week, but seeing it in person, did that change your opinion or perspective of it at all, mate?
I did say last week I wasn't a fan of the back of the jersey, and the reason I'm looking over here is I'm just looking at a photo on my other screen. The front of the jersey and seeing the legends wearing it, and seeing a lot of people wearing it and seeing it on the field, I do really like the way the front of the jersey is designed, but I just thought the back of the jersey, I still think the back of the jersey is just way too busy. And everything in that white coming into a V, and then you got the white numbers over the top. But in saying that, I could probably see myself getting one because I would, if I'm wearing it, I'm not looking at the back of the jersey. So, what about you, mate? You're the jersey guy. What do you think?
From my expert opinion, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, look, I actually thought it looked a little bit better in person, and I suspected it would. It's much darker. Like, it's funny. I think one of the guys put up a photo on social media, and it looked a bit more blue in that photo, but in person it looks more dark. It looks more black. So from the top, it's like got the royal blue that fades up to black. I don't mind it. It probably, for mine, it looked a little bit better in person. As you said, the back, just way too much happening there. But as you pointed out, we don't have to look at that. So when we're wearing it, I suspect I'll probably end up getting one as well.
It kind of reminds me. It kind of reminds the front of that Anzac jersey, the stained glass Anzac jersey, where there was just much going on. Yeah,
that eyesore.
That was such a busy jersey.
That was diabolical. That one, yeah, definitely one of my least favourites. That, yeah. Yeah, I agree. A lot happening, a lot of different colours going on there. So I see how you've made
And
that
again,
connection. But yeah.
And again, no shorts to match.
Yeah, it looked, to be honest, it
Similar.
looked terrible with the blue shorts because there wasn't enough blue on the jersey for it to match. And we all know why that is. It's because of the whole Puma distribution issues we've heard. So
Yep.
Anyway, I must say that it looked good with Legends wearing it when they all walked in wearing the jersey. It looked good on them.
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, on to the game. Knights 24, Tuala with a double, Frizzell and Lee tries, Clifford 4 from 4, Warriors 16, Pompey, Valea and Watani's Lesniak with tries, Walshy 2 from 4. Look, great opening. The first 10 minutes for the Warriors, 5 completed sets, no errors, line break to Freddie Lussick, some good fit tackle kicks from Sean Johnson, and some decent defensive sets, and back-to-back tries in consecutive sets to Pompey and Valea for a 10-0 lead. Everything was looking great at that point.
Got to start, really, could we? And I like we were there watching it live, and then obviously I come home and I do, the one thing that there was a Warriors supporter, and that is watch the game back on TV. Listening to Vossi talk about how we are the worst starters in the NRL. We've considered the most points in the first half, blah, 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 blah. But, couldn't have asked for a better start. Walsh and Johnson heavily involved, both men combining, and they squaring up the attack to create space for Valea to score. Things look really great at that point. Walshy slips over attempting to convert the Valea try, and, the vision looks pretty funny. Everyone has a laugh. Ha, ha, ha. However, for me, it was just a forewarning of what was to come.
That's it, mate. And now when you say that, it sends a chill down the spine, doesn't it? The set after points, again, Johnson kicks the ball out in the full. And just like that, the momentum shifted from the Warriors to the Knights. And we know how we go when that happens. Milford kicks in behind the line to finish a set, earns a forced dropout, but it's only a poor pass from Ponga to Lee that prevents the Knights from scoring because it was on. The Warriors then we go close to extending the lead with the 20th minute when Johnson picks up that grubber from CHT, but drops it over the line. But it was due to a high shot from Daniel Saifidi.
Yeah, we kind of couldn't see that at the game live. We knew that he dropped the ball, and that was pretty much what the video screens at Moreton Daly Stadium are. My laptop's bigger. They're just ridiculously small for a sporting event. But yeah, coming home and watching it, there was a lot of debate on the TV on whether it should have been a penalty try or penalty sufficient. Of course, Andrew Voss said, penalty try, and he went back to the Jordan Rapana hit. I think it was on Joey Manu last year where Rapana got 10 in the bin for a high shot or something, and but of course, Corey Parker and Shane Flanagan said, no, that's never a penalty sufficient. And of course, that's what happened at the game. The latter being awarded, which was a penalty. Walsh takes a penalty shot at goal, and the Warriors out to a 12-0 lead. But not long after that, on our next attacking set, CHT puts the ball out on the full. Initially not ruled on, and then the Knights, they decide to captain's challenge the call. And asking for the kick to be reviewed, and of course, they win that captain's challenge. But so that's 2 kicks that we've put out on the full in a short period of time to change that whole momentum shift of the game.
Yeah, well, it certainly paid off for the Knights, that captain's challenge, and of course it would against us. But the kicking game was diabolical. Like they were just spraying them off the side of the boot. They go on the attack immediately after that, and due to great field position, and Tyson Frizzell scores right away from a Clifford kick. And then to add to the mounting self-inflicted errors, Walsh puts the kick out on the full again. Yeah. So instead of working the ball off their own line, the yardage set, the Knights once again start inside Warriors territory. And again, it's only a poor pass from Milford to Fitzgibbon that denies the Knights points. That's all it is. It was the Knights' incompetence, I would say.
They didn't have to wait long, though. They got the ball back almost immediately with Merch dropping a ball. And 2 plays later, Edric Lee scores to tie the game up going into halftime. And that opening 10 minutes of the second half, the Warriors seem to be back in the groove. We're building pressure. They earn a repeat set through a forced dropout. I think it was a Johnson kick that they put in that Watani Zalesniak chased through and nailed Ponga in the corner. And then a very next set from that dropout, a well-placed kick from Johnson finds Dallin unmarked in the corner for a try.
You're thinking we've wrestled back momentum here until CHT drops the ball cold from the kickoff. Then ensuing scrum, Ponga sends Inari Tuala through a gaping hole in the defence on tackle 1. So you couldn't really surrender your lead more easily unless he'd actually knocked it on and the Knights picked it up and scored. And they took the lead back, and that ended any chance of the Warriors. That was the end of our chances of winning the game, and the rot just ensued after that, which included another game with a player spending 10 minutes in the bin, another game where we showed some attacking brilliance only to let ourselves down through unforced basic errors. And then after the game, as a few people already commented, it was interesting to hear Jazz in his post-match press conference or his interview. Most people picked up on his more jerseys and trophies comment, but it was him publicly naming and shaming Johnson, Harris, Tavita, and Walsh for their kick errors and the dropped ball from the kickoff, that we probably found most interesting, that you actually called these guys out. That had to happen.
Yeah.
That's to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a guy who grew up supporting the Warriors, came through their systems. He's worked hard on his game, particularly over the past off-season. He's cut out all the errors, the silly discipline that got him into strife. He's probably, the first guy picked each week in Brown's squad. He's the heart and soul of the team. For him to publicly shame those guys, to me, that's just a guy that's just fed up. And we're talking about a middle forward that doesn't have a high error rate in his game anymore. So he's, working his ass off in the middle of the field, and he's got the guys, the pretty boys out on the edges that are making the mistakes and turning the ball over and forcing these guys to do more and more tackles. And we spoke to some of the boys after the game. I won't name them and throw them under the bus, but as we usually do, we catch up with a couple of the boys. It was refreshing, but somewhat alarming to hear what they had to say about these mistakes, especially mistakes after points. It's discussed at training. It's talked about in video sessions. It's identified as a problem. They talk about it in games, yet it continues to happen. Like the game on the weekend. That was the one thing that was said after Dallin's try when they walked back after from the halfway, and they said, "Come on, boys, let's get to our kick. Let's get to our kick. Let's get to our kick." And they dropped the ball on tackle 1. And Chanel's not the only one that's done it. The Murchie's done it. For newer Blake,
even Bunty's
it's just
done
something
it.
that happens. Bunty's done it. It's just something that happens across the park, and it's a massive, it's an alarming stat that we just can't get rid of. He won't want to stay next year now. Jazz is on a player option. Not true. Jazz is tied up for next year. So the player option has been taken off the table, basically, and they've signed him. So Jazz won't be going anywhere. And as said to us, can you imagine Jazz playing in another club's jersey? I don't think Jazz could imagine playing in another club's jersey. It was an easy discussion to have with Jazz. And so his player option, he's activated his player option. He's there for 2023.
Yeah, mate, he's the heart and soul of the club. And just, as you said, it's just all self-inflicted wounds. And it's just amazing that they spoke about it after the Dallin try, and then literally the first thing they do is a blur.
Yeah.
I just don't know how it happens. So do they just suddenly take their heads off and put a pumpkin on something? I don't know, but geez. You look at the stats from this game, and the stats indicate that we should have won. Everything indicates that we should have won. 55% to the Knights, 45% possession. 78% completion rate compared to the Knights' 71%. 200 more running meters. 11 more tackle breaks. 40 less tackles made. 11 less missed tackles. We won every stat that mattered except for the scoreboard, which matters the most. We had 10 players run for over 100 metres compared to just 5 for the Knights. There are absolutely no excuses for that game except for those basic errors. Where we turn over possession, the halves, they're just not creating anything in attack. Anything.
No, they're not. I see a couple of boys are talking about Volkman in the comments. So our halves are a massive problem for us. We've got Sean, who's there, come to us for 2 seasons. He's in the back end of his career. He's not playing good football. Aside from 2 field goals and a 20-minute passage of play in that back end of the game against the Raiders, where he kind of came to life and had a disallowed try, he's really offered us nothing all season. We've got CHT, who's opted not to take up his contract offer, so and he's not going to another club. So as much as I'm, it's not that I'm saying he doesn't care, but he's got no invested interest in the club and the team past the end of this season. And when he dropped that ball from the kickoff, watching the vision back, the look on his face, he had no emotion. It's like he had no emotion. Like if that's me, I'm pissed off. I'm upset. I'm saying sorry to the boys. He had this blank look on his face where he just kind of rolled the ball off him and turned around and went back into his position. But the club has bought Volkman. A lot of guys talking about Volkman. They've bought him for next season. The club has bought him early. Based on discussions that we had post-game with, we'll say, people within the organisation, Volkman's come to us a little heavy. So he's not in peak condition. We saw him in the flesh on the weekend, and I was actually quite surprised with how short he is.
Very small man, isn't he? Yeah.
Very short, but he
stocky.
Did look like he was a little bit more stocky. That's a nice word for it. Stocky and robust. So
Matt
I'm
Utai in the halves.
Yes. Hoping he's got a lot more skill set, better skill set than Matty Utai though. So I can't see Volkman being a viable option for us moving forward. As I said, Harris DeVita he's starting to look like a guy who's somewhat checked out now that his decision's been made. Dejan Arzi has done absolutely nothing wrong. I thought, in the couple of games he's had, I think he's played 3 for us now, or 4 maybe.
4 games, yeah.
Yeah. He's that Raiders game. In his debut game, he had some really good touches, created 2 good try assists. He's done a little bit like in the last couple of games as well, but you kind of get the feeling he's not getting the opportunities with the ball on the field, possibly being overcalled, because he does look like he's a guy that's a little bit frustrated. And I spoke to him for about 15 minutes walking from Dolphins Leagues Club over to the game on Saturday, and had a bit of a chat to him. And I didn't get into too many specifics. Basically, I just asked him, as a young Warriors fan, you watched Sean Johnson make his debut in 2011. What's it like, now to be, playing alongside him? Said it was a dream come true, that kind of thing. He was a little bit confused as to why he wasn't picked for this week, as were probably a lot of us. So I'm hoping he gets another opportunity. I don't know how much longer we can keep playing Johnson in the halves when he's not really giving us anything. And I've got a theory that Shawnee may not be around next year. He may see that he's not the player that he was, and this is probably why the Sharks were not too upset when he kind of left. When they weren't going to offer him another contract.
They didn't offer him a deal. Yeah, they were fine for him to go. They kept moiling over him.
Yeah, he's got his ages against him. He has had some injuries that have kept him out long term. He didn't play from round 19 until round one this year, so he had a fair bit of time out. Look, I'm hoping that our development and pathways back in New Zealand are unearthing some halves talent, because that's one thing New Zealand has struggled to do since Stacy Jones. I think Stacy Jones was the last genuine organisational halfback that you could hang your hat on to get you around the park and play that role properly. Johnson's never been that player. I think Jones is the last New Zealand developed half that has come through the NRL. What do you reckon? Hang on, mate, I've got a beeping happening.
Yeah, that's all right. I was baffled when I saw Uzzie's name not in the score sheet. I thought it was probably time to give Johnson a spell. I would have had Uzzie. I would have tried Uzzie and CHT in the halves. But as you said, there's a lot, probably few concerns there about CHT, only just because, as you mentioned, he's only into the rest of the year, and his reaction to the mistake wasn't a great look. But we can move past that for now. You don't want to have like Uzzie and Volkman in the halves right away, because let's face it, mathematically we're still a chance this year. So you don't want to.
Yes.
You don't want to throw the young fella to the wolves before he's ready, because sometimes that can do more damage than good to a young player. So and as we've heard, he's not quite ready to go. So maybe in a few weeks' time, he might be given that opportunity. But let's just hope, fingers crossed, that the halves click at the moment, because we all want to see Sean do well in the jersey. He's already said how much it means to him to be back wearing the Warriors colours and back in the team. So we'd love nothing more than for that to work out, but at the moment it just isn't. Uzzie looks like he has a little bit of X factor about him, and as you said, he created opportunities in previous weeks. And I was baffled just to see him not in the game day 17, but there could be late changes. Who knows? Because he's in the extended squad. So, as for your comment about Stacey Jones and Kiwi bred halves, so you look at the successful Kiwi halves running around in the NRL over the past 15 years. So you got Benji, Jerome Hughes, Kieran Foran, and now Dylan Brown. All these guys came to Australia as kids and went through the pathways and development programs out here. So NZ has, as you said, has not really produced a talented half since Stacy Jones. Sure, Johnson, he was good in his early years, but as you mentioned, he wasn't a guiding half. He was that off-the-cuff highlight reel player. That's what he was in his younger days. When things were going great, he'd play off the back of that. We've seen him score a lot of tries against the Titans, the Raiders when they were struggling, the Tigers, and all this sort of thing. But rarely did he guide the team around the park, and especially not in those games against more experienced and more disciplined sides where he really did need to stand up.
Yeah, and the game that comes to mind when we talk about stuff like that is that Penrith semi-final when we lost RTS injured. We were within striking range of the Panthers, and we kind of looked for Sean to step up, and he didn't do it in that game. And you're right, those guys, Benji, Jerome Hughes, Kieran Foran, Dylan Brown, all playing great. Well, Benji's retired now, but you look at the way Benji came through and how good he was. And then you look at guys that were New Zealand bred halves that kind of came through at the same time in, Isaac Jean, who, was what he played 6 games of first grade or something like that. In comparison, you've got a guy like Jerome Hughes who's a manufactured halfback down at Melbourne. He's got a clear directive from Craig Bellamy what he wants from him, and he's playing, great footy. He's a form Kiwi half in the comp. Kieran Foran, been absolutely great for the Kiwis in the past. It's interesting. It's interesting. And because the Warriors haven't been home for 3 years, and they haven't been able to be in touch with their the development pathways and the young kids through. We spoke to Cam George on Saturday, and he did say that I think there's 11 kids out here at the moment involved in the development of pathways that are playing either Q Cup or the Colts Deering Cup. So it's giving them, they're training with the first grade squad. It's giving them experience playing here in Australia or, in bigger competitions, which is good. Do you think maybe Gould didn't like what he saw in terms of the development programs or lack thereof when he had a little bit of time in New Zealand? It was about this time last year that he was over there and thought that it was maybe too tough an assignment for him, and that's the reason he jumped ship so quickly to the Bulldogs. What do you think of that?
You don't like to think of it in those terms. But remember this time last year, he gave that interview on New Zealand TV that got us all fizzing. It was really exciting, some of the stuff he had to say there, and we were like, okay, this is him preparing, in the building blocks for the future. But it was literally just a matter of a couple of months later, and he was, as you said, gone to the Bulldogs. You don't want to think that he went over there and goes, geez, there's not much to work with here.
Yeah.
But I mean, having said that, we have been away for 2 years, and we haven't been able to keep much sort of ticking over. I know Adam Blair is working. Is it Tony Iro as well? Are working in that area as well, development. But yeah, I think one of our biggest problems is guys not having a clear idea of what their role is in the organisation, though. This is a big one for me. A shout out to Will and This Warrior's Life and listening to their interview with Simon Mannering that they did a couple of weeks ago, and even Simon himself pointed out that you look at a team like Melbourne and everyone knows exactly what their role is. Everyone knows what they have to do. Everyone knows what they're doing and what they're not doing as well. So doesn't that make a big difference? And Brownie, the interesting thing for me is Brownie bringing in guys from other clubs on short-term deals till the end of the season. And he's playing these guys ahead of, say, some of those 11 guys that you said are out here. And then there's guys on train and trial deals, young players, development players. He's playing these guys, these kind of late recruits, like short-term recruits instead of these guys. And most of them haven't committed to the club past this season either. So what is the message that's being sent to those other guys in the system through these selections? So a guy like Otacolo would probably be scratching his head at the signing of Lussick, and Lussick sort of playing ahead of him. And then Louis coming in and given an opportunity ahead of guys like, Pride. We've been calling out for Pride to be given a run. Just doesn't seem to be happening. And Jacko Frye as well. He was there at the game, and Garrett Smith and the Kepu boys, this kind of thing. These kind of players, sorry.
Yep. Yeah, well, I mean, I think Garrett Smith, he got injured. I think it was for the Dolphins, the game when they played prior to the Raiders game, because I had a chat to him then, and I spoke to him on the weekend, and he did say he's about a week or two away from getting back. But you're right. Lachlan Tim's not contracted to us anymore. He was on training trial last year. He's not there anymore. He's playing for Redcliffe, but he's not contracted to the Warriors. But yeah, he's a guy that just looks totally dumbfounded every time we see him and speak to him, because he has no idea what he's got to do to get a gig, playing first grade. They bought him in early last year. They bought him over early. We met him before the Titans game in Central Coast last year, before round one. He was there with Montoya and a couple of the other boys, Kane Evans, who weren't playing at that time, and we had a photo with him, got introduced to him then. And there's a lot of hype about Pride coming down to Sydney, and then here we are a season and a half later, and he still hasn't got his opportunity. And he's a good getting he's playing good footy in Queensland Cup he's getting man of the match performances nearly every week. And then you got obviously Jacko Frye, who was given his debut game last year and then really hasn't featured in selection since. And he's debut game last year, he played well. He had a really good debut game. He was strong.
Yeah, it didn't look out of place at all. Yeah.
No, and as you said, you've got the two Kepu twins who have been named. Both of them have both been named on the extended bench, and then obviously dropped off. Mate, I've been open about my confusion. Brownie's selections and his bench in the past, but what you've identified here in this this Band-Aid solution where we're bringing guys in to fill gaps in our roster is a much bigger problem. Because, I mean, you could understand if they're bringing a guy in, like we let Cody go, which is fine because Cody really wasn't offering anything, but they bring in Freddie Lussick as a replacement. And Freddie Lussick's played, 10 games. It's not like he's an established first grader. He's got a lot of games up on Otakolo. And it does. It creates confusion within the group. Otakolo, he's been used out of position earlier in the season. He was used as a middle forward, and those back home talk about his running game out of dummy half to be like his biggest strength. But we haven't seen it yet. And on the weekend, when he was presented that opportunity to run, he kind of looked confused and second-guessed himself.
He did. It was noticeable, wasn't it? A couple of times, one time right in front of us as well. Like if he just scooted, there was plenty of meters there to be had. And he did make another really good run as well.
Yeah.
Like all I can think of with some of these selections is that Brownie's thinking that these guys are more first grade ready. But as you've just said, like Lussick's only played 10 first grade games. I think 5 for the Roosters and 5 for the Dragons, something like that. So
yeah.
We just had a glowing endorsement of Jacko, though, future captain of the Warriors, according to one Jay Curran.
Yeah, that Jay Curran, he knows nothing about rugby league, that bloke. Good to see you, Josh. Gee, we can't wait till he's back on the field.
Absolutely, mate. Get well soon. But get well very soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find it interesting that Robbo came out and said that Brown is safe until the end of the season? So Brown himself, in that press conference, he came out and took responsibility for the Lodge fiasco, which was interesting. But you got a bit of a theory about this, haven't you, mate?
I do. I'm a conspiracy theorist for those that don't know me. I do make up these conspiracy theories in my head. And just to preface that, I'm one of those guys that don't believe we landed on the moon in '69. I think we've been there since, but I don't think
Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick directed it.
Yep, I think so too. But I do have a theory about that regarding Lodge, and we discussed his departure last week. But we did have a good chat over the weekend with some people, and we can't name names. And what was discussed with us is hidden behind confidentiality and trust. So we're not going to break that trust. But if and when the full Lodge story comes out, the truth comes out, I guarantee the club will look a lot more favourably than the player does, and that's all I'll say on that. But for Brown to take responsibility for the whole situation with Lodge, and for Robbo to say he is safe until the end of the season, my theory is I don't think Brown will be there when the club goes home to New Zealand full term next year. Now, the reason I say this is something that he said in the press conference really made me sit up, and it kind of because it was something that I don't know if it was needed to be said, but he said it, and it kind of made me listen a lot more. In and amongst all the, we know we're making mistakes and we need to be doing this and we need to be doing that. He was asked, just after they asked Tohu about, whether the Lodge situation upset the players during the week, and Tohu said no, it didn't. If anything, it created a little bit of excitement because it gave, some other guys maybe, an opportunity. And then they asked the question to Brownie about guys not wanting to return to New Zealand. And he said he understood, and he said when he signed with the club, he was of the, 2 years ago, he knew he was going back to New Zealand, but then, with the second wave of COVID hitting, the team's been stranded here in Australia, or not stranded, but they've made a decision to be based here in Australia more so because the uncertainty around COVID, especially when they made that decision last year, and then allowing partners and families to set themselves up, with jobs and kids going into daycare or school or whatever. So, they've been here in Australia. He said during that time, since that time, he's had a kid finish year 12, another kid start year 12, one going into uni. And he said, people's situations understands why a guy like Ewan had a change of heart. Now, for me, I read between the lines. And then when Robbo came out and said Brownie's safe until the end of the year, well, we know he's contracted till the end of next year. So for them to say that he's safe until the end of this year, like I said, I read between the lines, and I think there's already been a discussion with the club. And I think accepting the responsibility for the Lodge situation, he said, I brought the player to the club and work out, so that is all on me. But would it have worked out if Mark Robinson hadn't have been the alpha male and had words with Lodge? Because I mean, we don't know how that situation would have gone. But coaching is performance indicators, and so I've formulated an opinion, and this is just my opinion. This has not come from anybody. I want to let everyone know that I think that the club will be looking for a new first grade coach next year, and the Lodge taking responsibility for the Lodge thing gives the club an easy out to get rid of Brown at the end of the year, but something that he's already spoken about. And then there's comments coming through. Yeah, I don't think Stacey and Morgan are first grade like head coach material either. So that's my. Am I looking too hard, mate? Am I analysing things a little bit too hard here?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? When I watched the press conference, I thought, perhaps that's just his way of trying to take a bit of pressure off the management and Robbo and that kind of thing, and trying to put more of the focus on pressure on himself. That's how I read it. But now that you say it, like, it's definitely got me thinking, because why would you talk about your family like that in a press conference? Like, mention that kind of stuff.
That's what I mean.
Like, it seems a little bit.
That's what I mean.
A little bit too personal, unless it was deliberate. So, yeah, now you got me thinking.
Yeah.
And I don't mind a conspiracy theory, I'll tell you. Interesting. Watch this space, eh? We'll find out probably sooner rather than later.
Cameron Finlay says, boys, I understand about the confidentiality and trust, etc., and no need to spill the beans, but can you explain why the club doesn't mind looking like the loser in the Lodge situation if and when the actual story comes out? I will say I don't know what I can say to that.
I don't know. I don't know how we can answer that, actually.
No, I think it's in there. Confidentiality. Confidentiality. I think that's the key word in that whole thing. That things can't be discussed, and I mean, I think the story will come out, later in the year, maybe the full story. But yeah, we really can't say. We found ourselves in a position where we got hold of some really confidential information that we just can't share, basically. But we will say that the player, not everything that you're hearing in the media is accurate, especially the Paga. But yeah, not everything is accurate. Who do we replace Brownie with? It's like starting over again. Well, that's the thing. Who's available? Like at the moment, you've got guys that have had first grade experience would be Tuvey, Flanagan maybe, but I still reckon Flanagan will get the Bulldogs job.
You're forgetting about Mr. Heavily Entrenched.
Heavily entrenched Seagulls. No. Like that's what I mean. I haven't gone that far into my thought processes. All I've looked at is a couple of comments that were made over the weekend after the game, in regards to Woogie's odds.
Walker
you know
Brothers.
what? They looked at the Walker brothers before they signed Brown, and they didn't want to take a gamble on him. And since then, the Walker brothers, I don't think they're even coaching the Ipswich Jets anymore. So I don't know if they're even in that in a conversation now. I don't know what they're doing. Mike, he would be a great first coach, I think.
He would be a hard-working, reliable coach that would fix all the gaps in the defence, mate. Has anyone got Mike Doreen MD25's number there? Let's get him on.
It's interesting. Like the other thing too is it depends on. It's not necessarily who the Warriors want. It's who they can afford to get and wants to go to New Zealand. And it's like everything. Success on the field creates a want for players and people to go to the club, and that's been our biggest problem in the past. The past 3 seasons aside, that's been the biggest problem to get guys to sit with the Warriors when they're based in New Zealand is owning them and leaving family in Australia. B, it's a cold, wet environment. C, they're changing their money over there. They're on a different rate of pay, monetary value. There's a lot of things that go against the Warriors, but if you've got on-field success or you've got a coach that players follow and want to play with, then
these little things become less of an issue, become less of a hindrance.
And it hasn't been recruitment hasn't been an issue because let's face it, we've been based in Australia.
We've been in Australia.
So the whole time we've been based,
that's the secret.
The whole time we've been based in Australia, we got Montoya, Fanua Blake, Bailey Sirinen, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, Reece Walsh,
and these are guys coming off the top of my head. Like Kane Evans, Chad Townsend, all these guys. Like a lot of these guys would not have ended up at the Warriors had we been based in New Zealand.
Correct. Correct.
A couple of options coming through here. Sorry, Serraldo. He's just re-signed with the Panthers. I don't think he would be interested in taking the Warriors gig. John Ackland, Paul Green, Josh Hannay.
John Ackland had a lot of success with our 20s.
He's been off the radar for a bit, hasn't he?
He has. Paul Green, no. Josh Hannay, no. I know people are laughing, but I think Woogie's got the mentality to handle the Warriors. And let's not forget, like everyone laughs about, Woogie at the Tigers, but look at the roster that he's had to work with. And when he first went there, it wasn't his roster, and he's slowly bringing guys in. At the end of the day, you can only buy players that are available. You can't buy players that aren't. But Woogie won a premiership with South. He's that hard style coach that maybe we, and I liken it to Todd Payton. So when Todd Payton, and I know he only coached 14 games or whatever at the Warriors, or 12 games, but when Todd Payton took over as interim coach, no, we haven't sacked our coach, Steve Williams. When Todd Payton took over as interim coach, respect of all the boys pretty quickly because he was a no-nonsense, hard taskmaster. Madge is a Kiwi test coach as well. So I know he's not a Kiwi as such, but he's a guy that, he's invested in New Zealand Rugby League and so forth. So, there's some options there. My conspiracy theory takes shape towards the end of the year. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Hard to say, Yeah. So I was just going to say the alarming thing for me, though, the Warriors, is the repeat circus year after year. So every single year we have these rock bottom moments every year and we think, it can't get any worse than this. And then we look to, the next season for improvement. But there is no improvement. And there hasn't been any improvement from last year to this year. In fact, we're probably worse than we were last year at the moment. We compound the already rock bottom moments with more rock bottom moments. So do you think the club is just treading water to get through this season? And do you think they'll have like a hard reset when they go home? Hard reset meaning like, a complete clean out of all departments across the board. Not like a start from scratch per se, but something similar to what happened at the end of 2000 going into 2001. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it might be coming. I think it might be on the cards, and I think it's what might be needed. Just looking at, and I think it's a perfect time to do it when they've been over here for 3 years. They can get home. It's like they can wipe the slate clean, so to speak, and start again with some of those key personnel changes. Within coaching and player roster. We've locked in some really good players that we can build our club around. We've got Jazz, we've got Josh Curran, Torhu, Adam Fanua-Blake. Did Wade Egan re-sign? I know.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he signed for a further 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so Wade Egan. So we've got some guys there that are invested in the club long term, and we'll be looking to, obviously get some on-field success. We've got some guys that, generally love and care for the club. And then we've got guys coming next year that are 100% bought into the fact that they're going to be living in New Zealand. Guys like Mitch Barnett, Murata Niokore, and
Dylan Walker, Metcalf.
Dylan Walker. Metcalf unproven at first grade. I'm talking about guys with some first grade pedigree behind them. So guys that have signed, deals to come and live and play out of New Zealand. So they're building that. The thing with the Warriors is we've always got a good looking roster on paper. Like I can remember round 1 this year how excited we were. We looked at our roster. We were talking about first 5 games. We'll win the first 5 games, and we may only drop 3 games in the first 10, and it just hasn't worked out that way. And some of these guys that we're excited about in the roster, we're now looking at going, I don't know about you anymore. So, some comments there. We've been rebuilding since Cleary left after 2011.
That's the truth.
Yeah, mate. So, I think a hard reset is probably what's needed. And not a complete clean out, but definitely some guys. What do you guys think about bringing back C&K? Could be a great strike centre, and he has family in New Zealand that could make it.
If he wants to come back.
Yeah.
It's not just as easy as bringing him back. Everything has to kind of fall into place. I agree. He'd be a great strike centre.
The other thing to look at, though, too, is how his season's gone this year. Like, he really hasn't done anything. He was great that 2019, was it, when the Raiders made the grand final? Or was it 2018?
2019.
Yeah, he was great in that 2019 season for the Raiders. But then, he's been, I won't say average, but, he hasn't been as good. But then you look at a guy like Isaiah Papali'i, who's just going from strength to strength to strength each year. He's going to be a great pickup for the Tops. Anyway, mate, I guess we should mention that we did have a game on the weekend, and we did give 3-2 and 1 points to players in that game. We did give 1 point to Dallin. We thought Dallin was quite good on the wing. He did have some. There was a couple of times where he had some rushed in defence that broke down the Knights' attack, and obviously scored a try and was very good, safe out on the wing. We gave Jazz 2 points. Jazz was just very strong in the middle of the park, and 3 points. Tohu Harris for the second week in a row. An all-out fantastic player, and even when we're not playing well, the cream always rises to the top, doesn't it? 1 point. I think position of who's leading our 3-2-1. Aden's still in front by a point to Josh, by a point to Walsh. So, Josh, you need to get back on the field, mate, and get some more 3-2-1 points so you can win the Notorious Player of the Year and get yourself some Roo and Hammer merch.
It's flying off the
great to see Pompey back. after the horror show the week before. Yeah, rewatching the game back, I did think Pompey was quite good. Had some really good touches. Mate, we'll look at the rest of Indigenous round, eh? Indigenous round obviously kicked off on Thursday with the Storm hosting two teams who had probably had some indifferent form the past couple of weeks due to injuries to the key personnel. But it was the Storm in the game, 28-8. The Storm tries to Munster 2, Lewis, Coates, Anthony Bromwich, Meany 4 from 5 goals, and the Seagulls, George Tafua and Christian Tuipulotu tries, Garrick none from 2. For me, further highlighted just how much Manly's attack relies on Tommy Turbo. Because with him not on the field, they never looked like, getting any ascendancy in that game. Even without both Pappenhausen and Storm were able to dominate all areas of the game, largely through Cam and the man we spoke about, Jerome Hughes. For Manly, Kieran Foran played his 250th milestone game. 17 of those he played in a Warriors jersey in 2017. And Georgie Tafua, he played his first game since round 17, 2020, and he got himself a try on his return to first grade 2. But it was far from a great performance from the Storm, but Manly, they're just a team struggling with their on-field cohesion. That's 6 straight games now for them where they've conceded over 20 points. Hopefully 7.
I was just about to say, let's hope for 7. At least 20 points. I think we'll need more than 20, though. The first game on Friday, the dreaded 6 p.m. time slot, was between the Panthers and the Cowboys. Undoubtedly the two form teams of the competition. Bizarre that, I know it's selected before the season starts and they weren't probably banking on the Cowboys being this good, but it was definitely worthy of a 8 o'clock time kickoff. And the Cowboys, they travel to Sydney for the first time this year and only their 3rd game outside of Queensland since last season. Amazing. Panthers 22. Yo, Edwards, To'o and May tries. Cleary 2 from 3. Crichton 1 from 1. Cowboys 0. It was always going to be the Cowboys' biggest test of the season, and Penrith, they controlled the momentum of the game. And the Panthers, they don't panic when the points don't come, so they just back their processes. They have confidence in grinding away, and the opposition will grinding away at the opposition, and they'll eventually bring the points. They're also one of the only teams who can go to a different level of energy and intensity, and they just suffocate opposition teams. They're like a boa constrictor of footy side. Yeah. And not an altogether bad performance from the Cowboys, but it does show the gulf or the chasm between the Panthers and the rest of the competition.
Yeah, it does. And Toddy Payton, after the game, to his credit, he wasn't too upset. He said they learned a lot about where they're at, and he said given and I don't know what the possession stat was, he said, but given an equal share of possession, he thought they could have got Penrith. So I don't know about that, but it's good to see that he didn't lose any more hair over the result. The second game on Friday featured the Queensland Derby playing host to the Titans. The Broncos 35, Cobbo, Martin, Ricky, Farnworth, Capewell, Mam tries. Staggs 5 from 6 goals and Tyson Gamble with a field goal. Titans 24, Campbell, Thompson, Brimson for feeder tries. Asako 4 from 4. Mate, you couldn't help but notice the boos that Payne Haas received from his own fans with his first couple of touches in the game, and it continued for the whole game. Right up until the final whistle. And he did come out and say that it kind of rocked him a little bit. I noticed he's done a bit of a backflip now, and he said he wants to stay and he's not going to do contract talks until the end of the year. I don't think I'm pretty sure he just doesn't want to be booed at Suncorp. The Broncos, they also copped an early sin binning of Jordan Ricky for a late tackle on Toby Sexton, which gave the Titans an early extra man advantage. And then they made the most of it with a try and flooded it up. They controlled the momentum, scoring 2 tries for an 18-0 lead. Titans lost Sam McIntyre to the sin bin to compound things. They lost Seth for a little while in that game as well to a shoulder injury. And a few plays later, SR Masters was sent to the sin bin. So the Titans down to 11 men. The Broncos, they exploited that advantage with Cobbo scoring just before half-time. His try celebration sparking Wendell Saylor in that inaugural All-Stars match with the using the goal.
I'm going to stop you there. Because my good mate Brad, Mad Tigers fan, was blowing up to me on messages on Friday saying they keep saying that Wendell Saylor was the first to do that. What about Kevin McGuinness? He did it back in 2001 at Leichhardt Oval.
Did he really?
Yeah. Kevin McGuinness was the first one to actually do it. And he was blowing up the luck saying they keep saying that it was Dell, but that wasn't until like 2010. So, Buddha McGuinness.
2001.
The younger one.
2001, Kevin McGuinness playing at the Tigers. Yeah, no one would have seen that on TV. So we still go back to we still go back to
as you were.
Made a mistake from the kickoff by the Broncos, and an 11-man Titans outfit scored, courtesy of the fat track bully himself, David Fafita. Mate, the Broncos, though, with 2 tries in 2 minutes. I don't know how the Titans gave up a 20 lead, and I think that's twice this year they've done that. And the Broncos, they won their 6th straight game, and the Titans just left scratching their heads. They were poor. You score 20 points, you lead 20-0, you shouldn't lose.
You can imagine how much of a flogging the Warriors would have copped if we had done that. I say if is like we never done that. We do it all the time. But it's funny that not so much was mentioned when the Titans do it. But anyway, I digress. Super Saturday. It was kicked off with us against the Knights. We do not need to go through that one again. The second game was the Rabbitohs versus the Tigers. Rabbitohs 44, Johnston with a treble, Walker with 2, Havili Graham and Paulo tries, Nico Arima 3 from 5, Taff 3 from 3. Tigers 18, Big Kenny Mamalo with a double, Kapoa tries, Brooks 3 from 4. Tigers, they led 18-12 at half-time before being run over by red-hot Rabbitohs in that second half, scoring 32 unanswered points. Dane Laurie returned in great style for the Tigers with 116 metres, 2 try assists and 3 line break assists. And Damien Cook sprinted to his milestone game like it was on sand. 150th game for him.
What does that mean?
Okay, I've had a little bit of inside information. I don't know if I should be revealing this, but apparently he used to be a beach sprinter. I don't know if many people know that.
Right, okay. Interesting.
He racked up 9 tackle breaks and ran for 112 metres on a near perfect tune-up for State of Origin 1. And story of the night, though, has to be Alex Johnston with another try-scoring hat-trick, surpassing Nathan Merritt as South's highest ever try scorer, and now has his eyes firmly on Ken Irvine's all-time record.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that. So congratulations to AJ. Apparently when Campbell Graham passed him the ball, Campbell Graham was running behind him going, history being made, history. And Alex Johnson wasn't aware of what he meant until he was kind of reminded. But Johnson's only like 26 years old. And they reckon that on his current try-scoring ratio, where I think he scores trajectory, where it scores a try every 1.22 games or something like that. He only needs another 7 and he will break the record by Kenny Irvine. And those 78 games fall within his current contract time period at the Rabbitohs. So he should be able to get it before he's off contract at the Rabbitohs. So interesting. It would be great to see someone get that record. I'm not sure the number of games that Kenny Irvine played to get the record. I don't know. I'll have to look up on that. But Kenny Irvine, he was a great bear. Irvine, great Bears man. But if it'd be great to see one of those kind of records fall in our lifetime. Remember it. So yeah, that'd be good. Last game, the Sharks hosting the Roosters. The Roosters 36, 2 tries, Butcher, Tedesco, Big Jared Hargraves, Manu, Watson tries, Walker 4 from 7, the Sharks 16. Pre-Jack, Mulatalo a try, Katoa a try, McInnes a try, Hines 2 from 3. The Roosters kind of continuing their unpredictable form, where they come up against, high quality or more fancied opponents, with 5 of their 7 wins this year coming against the Sharks, the Cowboys, Eels, and we'll throw the Seagulls in there. They were a top 8 side last year. The Roosters led 20-0 and were never really threatened. Talakai was at his tackle-busting best for the Sharks, finishing the night with 9 tackle breaks to go with his 151 run metres. Thomas Hazelton, he made his debut in the 34th minute. And Andrew Fafita played his milestone 200th game for the Sharks. A great achievement for him, considering he had that life-threatening trachea injury at the end of last season that not only nearly ended his career, but nearly ended his life. And I think it was quite fitting that he plays that milestone game in Indigenous round as well. So, congratulations to Andrew.
Yes, indeed. The first game on Sunday saw the Bulldogs return to their spiritual home at Belmore there, hosting the Dragons before a near sellout crowd. But it was the Dragons 34, Moga, Fagai, Hunt, Lomax, McCulloch, and Laurie tries. Lomax 5 from 6. Bulldogs 24, Avarillo with 2, Flanagan and Shoop tries, and Burton 4 from 5. Bulldogs, they took a 2-0 lead via an early penalty goal. Before the Dragons, they struck gold with 3 tries in 7 minutes. Tautau Moga scored his first NRL try since 2019. He crossed in the corner for the Red V on club debut. Matt Duffy, very mixed afternoon against his old side, setting up a brilliant try for Kyle Flanagan before letting a ball bounce that enabled the Dragons to take that 10-point lead. Opposite number Cody Ramsey, he was safe under the high ball all afternoon despite the gusty conditions, and it was a happy result for the Dragons. They're looking, who are looking to, obviously lock down a permanent fullback, so he looks like he's the man. The battle between Zach Lomax and Aaron Shop in the centres was among the highlights, with the pair crossing for a try each. And Bulldogs centre Jake Avarillo scored the second double of his career with tries before and after halftime.
Yeah, and the final, that was a pretty reasonable game from the Dragons too. The final game of the round was the Raiders hosting the Eels in a cold nation's capital. I've been to the nation's capital to watch the Warriors play in like a June and July fixture. It is a very cold place to watch footy. The Eels 28, Sue Brown 2, Penasini tries, Moses 4 from 5 goals, beat the Raiders 20, Chris 2 tries, Whitehead, Fogarty 4 from 4. Raiders halfback Fogarty played his first game for the club after missing the opening 12 weeks of the season with a knee injury. Sebastian Chris, he came in, he was the man to replace Jared Croker in the centres. He opened the scoring before being gifted a second try shortly after when Clint Gutherson spilt a swirling high kick. The Raiders led 18-16 at the break before the Eels scored twice in the second half. Eels 5-8, Dylan Brown was dangerous again, finished the game with 2 tries, including 3 line breaks and 173 run metres, which is massive for a half. The Raiders completed 89% through contest while they had 52% of the ball, but Parramatta's defence, particularly in the second half, was pretty immense to help them get that win.
All right, so let's look at the ladder after 12 rounds. So Penrith, they remain 4 points clear at the top of the table. A nice handy little buffer there for them heading into this origin period where they're going to be undermanned for a few games. And the Storm, they returned to second on the ladder, knocking the Cowboys down to third, and the Broncos in fourth, equal with the Cowboys on 16 points. The Eels and Roosters jump ahead of the Sharks, and the Rabbits, they round out that top 8. The Dragons move into 9th place, 2 points clear of the Raiders and the Sea Eagles on 10 points. Warriors, we remain in 12th, ahead of the Knights on 4 and against. The Titans and Tigers in 14th and 15th, 2 points clear now of the Bulldogs in 16th spot. And, mate, the teams for State of Origin Game 1, they were selected over the weekend. What did you make of the selections there for your beloved Blues?
Interesting, mate. Yeah, interesting.
There was a lot of talk, with the injuries to Latrell and Tom Trbojevic, of who was going to get the centre spots, and a lot of people were talking about Katoni Staggs and Stephen Crichton. Well, Staggs got one of those spots. The other one went to Jack Whiten, who has done a job for New South Wales in the centres before. And last year, I think he played out of that 14 jersey. So Not surprising to see Freddie name him. The big surprise was probably Josh Addo-Carr not getting selected, and you've got to now ask the question on whether if he had not have gone to the Bulldogs, whether he still would have been in the mix, or is that the Bulldogs are not playing, because he's still scored a number of tries, but he's definitely not as involved in the play as what he was down in Melbourne. So that was a big one. Daniel Tupou gets a recall to the squad. No massive surprises back. Cameron Murray, Tarek Sims, Isaiah Yeo. And then they've got on the bench, Campbell Gillard, I think was a bit of a surprise. I think people thought someone like Keon Kolamatangi or somebody like that get a call up. The interesting one for me is a guy like Joseph Swiley. Now, I know Freddie's come out and said, it's just, he's picked in the squad. It's to give him the experience so that when he does get picked and him and Api Coruscant, who's picked on that extended bench, they're both gone back to their respective club sides this weekend. They've been named to play for the Panthers and the Roosters. But they did the same thing last year with Campbell Graham. So they named him in that as that player to give him the experience. And then the very next year he's not even in the conversation. So I don't know. I think it's maybe too early. I think there's other players that maybe deserve to get a Blues jersey. Even though they're not going to play, you're still getting a Blues jersey from the 2022 Origin series with the number 21 and his name on it. It's I feel for Jakey Trbojevic not getting picked. I thought he's been a guy that's worked really hard and probably he's deserved his jersey over the years. I thought he was hard done. I would love
to have him to have been picked this week, purely because he won't be playing against us.
Yeah, I was calling for all the Manly players to get picked this weekend. And then looking at the Queensland squad, no real surprises.
Ruben Cotter, perhaps. I thought, it was great to see Billy pick on form because you got someone like Jai Arrow that could have been there. Jai Arrow didn't make the team, and it's good to see that they're rewarding form. Ruben Cotter's been on fire this year, so good to see him there. I will just I'm not a huge fan of. I've got nothing against him as a player. So the selection of Jeremiah Nanai, he was a guy who only just sort of pledged his allegiance to Queensland this year. I'm not a big fan of that, as you know.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be players convinced to switch to Queensland or Maroon. Queensland or New South Wales series is picked. If it didn't play out like that, but that's just sort of what it came across as. The start of the year, he's playing well, and they sort of came out and said, he's pledged his allegiance now to Queensland. Was that because they were saying he was a chance of getting picked? I'm just not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of having to convince players for Origin. It just kind of grates on me a bit.
I think Billy's afforded a guy, Felice Kafusi, a token jersey as well, because I don't think Kafusi.
He has some.
It's loyalty. As what he should, as what he has. I agree, mate. In the Nanai argument, it's and then people are talking about Xavier Coates and the gig ahead of Corey Oates. Well, I think that was a no-brainer.
Oh, absolutely, Oates has played well in the Queensland jersey before, but Xavier Coates has been playing very strongly this year. So,
I think the New South Wales squad looks a lot stronger, but that accounts for nothing on Origin time. I can remember we lost to the worst ever Origin team selected a couple of years ago, and then you go back to the series that we lost 3-0 to Fatty Horton.
Fatty's Neville's.
The baby. So teams on paper are completely different to teams on field, and the Broncos have selected some really good front rowers in Tino and Josh Papali'i. just on that Nanai thing, the other thing that kind of confused me is, so we got Tubu and
Tony Staggs. So you can talk
what's the
about the
other guy's
Tongan
name?
thing.
Tony Staggs,
Yeah.
who have both been picked for New South Wales, but have both come out and said that they may not play game 2 because of their allegiance for Tonga. And this is something that has always pissed me off. I've always thought that if you're going to plead your allegiance, and I know they them as second tier teams now, but they're playing a test match during the Origin period. They're playing the World Cup at the end of the year, and obviously they've beaten the big three. They've beaten England, they've beaten New Zealand. So whilst they may be a second tier nation based on monetary value and size of geographic location stuff, they're far from a second tier. They're on level par with Australia, New Zealand, and England. And it grates me enormously when guys do this. I think if you're picking allegiance to a country, then Origin for me has always been New South Wales and Queensland and people pledging their allegiance to the Kangaroos, and that's how it should be. I don't
100% agree. I don't like it when you hear guys like So I don't like it when you got guys like Luai, To'o, and I would say Stephen Crichton and all these guys that are happy to play Origin, but when it comes to internationals, they say they'd rather play for Samoa. I don't think you should be able to pick and choose there. I think you say if you commit to playing for the Blues or the Maroons, then you're committing to play for Australia. I 100% agree with you there. I don't think that they should have it both ways.
No. And I mean, this all started a few years ago when Queensland had trouble fielding players, so they allowed guys like Adrian Lamb, who was
Craig Smith,
Craig Smith, who was a Kiwi, guys like that, just to get
Tony Carroll.
So I'm just a big believer in that. If you're going to pull on a maroon jersey or you're going to pull on a blue jersey, then you do it for the 3 games of the series, and you are pledging your allegiance to play for the Kangaroos. And if you don't make the Kangaroos, then bad luck. You've pledged your allegiance to the Kangaroos, so you're an Australian. You can't. The way people can just pick and choose to what suits them, at any given time. So that's just my thoughts. That's
all right, mate. That's well said.
Before we move on, I guess we should also mention the fact that the voice of rugby league, Ray Warren, has today announced that he will not be calling the Origin. He's retired from calling. Official call will be done as final last year, and he leaves himself stranded on 99 Origin appearances, Origin calls. So he could easily have gone for the elusive 100, but he said that the game is basically bigger than him, and he'd undo his legacy by making a mistake on air. Based on, I mean, he hasn't commentated now for 6 months. So it was great. He was great for rugby league. Everyone loved Rabs. We can all do a Rabs impersonation. Some of us not very well.
Fair dinkum department.
Quite well.
Australia on the attack now.
We all grew up listening to Rabs. So some guy by the name of Matt Thompson's going to be calling Origin on Wednesday night. So we wish him luck, and
all the best. It won't be the same, but yeah.
No, he's got some shoes to
go good, son.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
We'll move our focus now quickly to the round 13 games, and in particular our match against Manly at Four Pines Stadium. That's the lone Saturday night game. The team, Mr. Browns boys. We have Reece Walsh, Dallin Watene-Lesniak, Rocco Berry, Adam Pompey, Marcelo Montoya, Chanel Harris-Tavita, and Sean Johnson in the halves. Ben Murdoch-Masila, Wade Egan, Jazz Tavanga, again named at prop. Ewan Aiken, Tohu Harris, and Jack Murchie. Rounding out the run-on side on the bench, Taniela Otokolo, Aaron Panay, Bunty Ofoa, and returning from injury, Bailey Sirenen. Extended bench is Freddie Lussick, Elisi Katoa, Dunamis Louis, Dejan Azzi, and Jesse Arthurs.
Yeah, they only have to name 23 players now, not 25. I don't know why it's changed, but there was a thing that they posted the other day that now all teams only have to name 23. So, yeah, some changes for us this week, mate. Wade Egan returning is a big returning from injury. A handy inclusion in the middle. Freddie Lussick drops back to the extended bench. And then we've got Rocco Berry. He earned a reprise in the centres with that broken jaw to Vili Valea. Showed a lot of heart and courage to play that second half, the whole second half with that jaw broken. Bailey Sirenen also returns from injury. He's named on the interchange bench, which forced Ellie Katoa back to the extended bench. And club debutant, Dunamis Louis. He's also named on the extended bench. Congratulations to Dunamis. We didn't mention it in the review. Became Warrior 271 with his 19 minutes on the field for the Warriors last week. Nothing overly extravagant, but, did his job. Mate, for me, I think come game time. The fact that Egan's back now, and Egan's pretty much a 70-minute hooker, I think Colo drops off that interchange bench and someone like Dunamis Louis comes on, or even Eli Katoa, which seems to be happening over the last couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if Murchie drops back to the bench and Bailey Sirenen starts as well. But, I think with Egan playing now, I don't think we need to carry an Otokolo or a Lussick on the bench for the game because we've got Jazz that can fill that 10 minutes at hooker if need be. So interesting. I really hope Dejan gets a call up somewhere in there. I don't think he will. I think Brownie will stick with Harris, DeVita, or Johnson, although I do have another theory, as I develop these theories in my head. I think if he was going to drop Sean Johnson and not name him on today, I think it would become a massive news around the week and so forth. And I think if Johnson's not going to play a game, if Johnson's going to get sacked or dropped for his poor performances over the past couple of weeks, I think you won't see it until 24 hours before the game. So the clearest indication that Johnson's not going to play any week would be if once they drop their squad to 21, Arzy's still included in that. Those 2 or 3 players that they're the two drop the squad to 19. Arzy's still included in those players. So I just think it's a massive news story if Johnson is to get dropped. I can remember when he got benched one time and the news story that was about happening around that in a game. So to drop a guy like Sean Johnson out of the squad, I don't think it will happen in a team naming unless they just say, look, he's injured and he's not going to play. So we'll see as it's closer. But the pretty strong squad, they're only missing Joe through injury and Cherry Evans in Origin. So it's not the depleted Manly side that we were hoping we'd get coming to Origin. Where do you see us winning this game? Where do we have to be a lot better? I mean, obviously a lot better with our kicking game, making sure we don't kick out on the full, kickoffs out on the full and so forth. But what are the key matchups for you in this game, do you think, and where are we going to win?
We have to build pressure. We have to build pressure a bit better, and we have to take our opportunities. Yeah, as you said, the halves, like our kicking game, we need to force repeat sets. We need some direction in attack, and we need plenty of go forward. They're still a pretty big pack, Manly, so we're going to have to match them. That's why I think there will be another change. There'll be, as you said, one of those like Otokolo or Lussick dropping off, and then another big body added in there. But yeah, and most importantly, we need to not kick out on the full. We need to complete our set after points and not make so many unforced errors.
Yeah. this is a game I fear that a guy like Tolutau Kola is going to be showing just how much pace he has. They keep talking about him being quicker than Xavier Savage, and then they're going to have Jason Saab and Cooler on one side of the field. Jason Saab being recalled into first grade this week. That was a weird selection. They picked George Tafua last week, and then I don't think he did anything too bad. He's been dropped.
I'm glad he's been dropped. He carves us up, George Tafua, in the past.
I know. Josh Schuster moves to 5'8", which means he won't need to be on the treadmill as much.
And the big one for me is
their bench. They get a guy like Carl Lawton coming off the bench, and he's going to be a special for getting that kind of, burrowing try from dummy half or something when he comes onto the field.
Yeah. So he's a special for that.
Yeah.
Jacko is a big Sean Johnson fan, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, he is. But yeah, I mean, everyone has their opinions on players, and feel free to voice your opinions and agree or disagree with what we're saying. But there's a lot of comments about Johnson, and it's true. He needs to run the ball more. He needs to be more involved, and his touches just haven't been good enough.
Yeah, what's Jesse Arthur's
let's get into
wrong? Jesse Arthur's. I'd like to know that as well, but probably I would say that they're probably thinking, well, he's not going to be here next year, so not give him game time. But that goes against everything else that we've already spoken about earlier in the show about the players coming in and taking positions. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's go on to, as you said, only 4 games this weekend due to Origin. Thursday night, Titans versus Cowboys. Titans, Paddy Herbert returns from injury into the centres. Big Tino missing due to Origin. Fodawaker and Wallace named in the front row. Isaac Liu at lock. David Fafita out with injury. And for the Cowboys, Brendan Elliott on the wing. Tabuai Fido named to replace Holmes in the centres. Ben Hampton named 6th to replace Tom Dearden. Elam Lukey named to start for Nanai. Cohen Hess in for Ruben Cotter. And Taumalolo returns from injury. It's an interesting one. The Cowboys are missing a lot of players. I'm gonna pick the Titans in a close one here.
I'm picking the Titans as well. I think guys like Cotter not playing, the speed of Cotter, the great hands and the footwork of Nanai on an edge there. They're going to be missing Valentine Holmes as well. And Tom Dearden's been outstanding for them at 5'8". And the guys that are coming in to replace him just aren't, a like-for-like replacement. So I'm going to pick the Titans. I think it'll be close, but I'll pick the Titans. The next game, the Friday night game, is the Panthers the Bulldogs. For the Panthers, was in to the centres for St Crichton. We've got Charlie Staines named on the wing for Brian To'o. Kurt Falls and Sean Sullivan are the halves pairing for Cleary and Luai. Chris Smith is named in the back row for Liam Martin, and Matt Eisenhuth named for Isaiah Yeo. No Origin changes for the Bulldogs. Raymond Faitala Mariner has been named in the run-on side, his first run-on game since that injury he had, and the guy, Zach Docker-Clay, comes back onto the interchange bench. This game last year in Origin, the Panthers played the Tigers, and I was at that game at Leichhardt Oval, and the Panthers had 9 players out through Origin, and they were just abysmal. I think they would have learnt a lot from that game. And the guys that they're bringing in this year to replace the guys that are out from Origin, I think are a little bit more skilled and have some first-grade experience, except for a guy like Kurt Falls. So I'm still going to pick the Panthers. I can't see the Bulldogs getting over the Panthers, even though the Bulldogs are pretty much at full strength. The story did drop today, though, that Matt Duffy will not be playing. He's been told that he won't be at fullback. I think they're talking about Corey Allen coming in to play fullback possibly. But that makes no difference for my picks. I think the Panthers will win. I think they'll do it comfortably too.
Yeah, I have to agree. I just can't see the Bulldogs winning, even with all those players out. I think it'll be a bit closer though, but I think the Panthers will have enough to get the job done. The only game on Saturday is the Seagulls versus the Warriors at 4 Pines there. Seagulls, Cherry Evans, the only Manly player named for Origin. Horan moves to halfback and Schuster to his preferred position of 5'8". Jason Saab named on the wing for Georgie Taifua. And as we said for the Warriors, Rocco Berry returns to the centres for Valia. Wade Egan named at hooker. Freddie Lussick pushed back to the extended bench. Bailey Sirenen named on the bench. Elisi Katoa pushed back to the extended bench. Look, my heart says Warriors, but my head says Manly. Manly, I think Manly by 8.
Mate, I'm going to stay tough, and I think the Warriors by 2. There is no Daly Cherry Evans to kick a field goal in this one.
Thank goodness. The small mercies, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is, mate. Again, like if we've gone to school on ourselves in our video sessions, have been honest sessions, and guys are starting to take ownership of the mistakes that they're making in games, I will say that we'll get a result in this one. We need to get a result in this one.
Bloody love us to get a result.
Will Evans, was it Will Evans that put the stats up that if we lose this game, where it equals the record of 9 losses in the opening 13 rounds of the 2004 season. We know how that season.
Our worst ever season, only 6 wins that year. So we're going to equal that, and it's not looking good. And we still need 2 wins just to equal that 2004 season.
Correct. So we need a win, and I'm banking on us getting a win. So by 2, I'll say. And the last game, the only game on Sunday, is the Raiders hosting the Roosters. The Roosters.
Freudian slip.
The Raiders. Matt Frawley named to replace Jack White at 5'8". Corey Horsburgh named for Josh Papali'i in the front row. And young Trey Mooney named on the Raiders bench to make his debut. For the Roosters, the versatile Joey Manu moves back to fullback for Tedesco. Billy Smith comes onto the wing for Daniel Tupu. Kevin Nakwama named in the centres. Joseph Suwali will named on the wing. He will come back from Origin to play this game. Drew Hutchinson named at 9 with Connor Watson named on the bench. Mate, I have picked the Raiders in this one. I think it's that Raiders pack. I know they haven't got Josh Papali'i this week, but I'm just a massive fan of that Raiders pack. I love the way they work. I say it every week. I think Jamal Fogarty is, will be better for the one game that he's had. And then they've got, good strong centers in Tomoko and Sebastian Chris. I just think a lot of movement in the team. The Roosters haven't been altogether that great this year, even with their side on the field. So, I'll back the Raiders in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Roosters.
I knew you would.
Mike Harrison, I wish Manly had Kane Evans instead. Origami.
Good old Origami.
Shout out to you, Origami, over there in the ESL. Guys, don't forget, live shows coming up. Obviously, every Wednesday we'll be having our review shows. Not next Wednesday, though, due to State of Origin. So we're going to move that to,
Correct.
Is that Tuesday night? Or
Thursday.
Thursday. Thursday. Because we can review the game.
Thursday to incorporate the Origin. Yeah, we can talk about Origin as well. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Thursday night next week. Any Origin week. Well, one of the games is Sunday night, isn't it? The middle Origin is Sunday, yes. I think. But the first and last, we'll be doing our show on a Thursday night. Of course, we continue to make those connections with the former players to bring you some of those head-to-head interviews that you guys all enjoy. So, confirmed to be coming up. We're just finalising dates with Dr. Death, Jason Death, Robbie Mears, Tony Martin, and Richard Villasanti, all coming up soon. So when we finalise some dates, we'll let you guys know. So keep an eye out on the events page on our social medias, and keep an eye out on the events on Facebook for any upcoming fan pre-game meetups. If you guys are heading along to Redcliffe, we'll be at the Dolphins Leagues Club. We can't book any tables there, unfortunately, but if you meet out the back in the sports bar, such an awesome place to mingle and catch up, and a great atmosphere there before the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a good chat to Monty and Arwen the other day, so we just got to work out logistics of the Australia-New Zealand time difference, but those guys are really keen to come and have a chat with us as well, so that'll be great.
Just a reminder too that Patreon, our platform that enables our followers to show their support of us and the content we provide. You can head to our Patreon page to show your support and subscribe to our bronze, a 3-month subscription. I'd like to thank those that have Patreon so far: Daniel Delore, Peregrine Falconer, Sean Kurzweil, Fabian, Stevie Williams, Christian Cately, Alf Tualava, Kay Harris, Ted Clark, Inamete, Lisa Marie Bateman, Ken Wills, Nigel Phillips, Kane Fraser, Jermaine Downs, Malcolm Earnshaw, Dennis Danzo, and Ciala Afmasanga. Thank you guys so very, very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, legends. Can't do it without you. We have also partnered with Torius Screen Print, and they're producing a range of merchandise for us, as you can see right here. And behind Hammer there, our Steve Price halftone hero shirt was the first one that we did. We're going to be releasing our next release in the Halftone Heroes series in a few weeks, and that will be the Mark Tukey shirt, as you can see here, Warrior number 76, forever and always. And Hammer's got the Campo, Kevin Campion, Warrior number 86, forever and always shirt. If you want to purchase yourself one of these, stay tuned to our social media, and we'll tell you how you can do that. And also, if you want to purchase a Roo Hammer hat, like this one here, I've got a few of those left. They've been very popular. I do have a few of them left. So if you contact us directly on our Facebook page, we can organise to get one of those sent away to you. Or if you want to meet up with us at any of the games coming up, we can organise a hat for you there as well. Also, I'd like to talk about our Roo Hammer merchandise store as well that we've set up on Redbubble. So the link is there, and we've been promoting that as well on our social media. So you can head along to Redbubble, and you can search for Roo Hammer. At the moment, we've got our logos in the circular form and the standalone logo, like you can see on the hat there. And you can get that on a T-shirt, you can get that on a hoodie, you can get that on a cap, you can get that on a drink bottle, you can get that on whatever you like. So we have a range of products there that you can purchase for our Roo Hammer logo, and there will be some more designs coming up very soon. So make sure you guys stay tuned, and we'll be advising you about that. So some great merchandise there for you guys to purchase if you would like to.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah. So jump on and order yourself some merch and rep Roo Hammer. And don't forget, if you miss any of our shows, you can catch us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, by going to our video section, or you can YouTube chat up there. The easiest way to find all of our videos is to head to our link tree, which has direct links to each of our live guest interviews and special presentations. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel so you never miss any of our stream content. And if you are a podcast fan, you can catch all our episodes on our podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, Radio Direct, iHeartRadio. Make sure you subscribe to us there. We upload our episodes so that they are ready to listen to every Thursday morning. And also, please head to our Roo Hammer Instagram, where we upload content daily to keep all our followers informed of our upcoming events, Warriors news, player movements, all other Warriors-related content, all our photos that we take and share. Make sure you subscribe to us there.
Well, mate, that's it for another show. Thank you so much to all you guys who tuned in on Facebook and YouTube, and thanks to all you guys who are listening to us via podcast as well. It's very much appreciated, and we thank you all for continuing to support us at Roo Hammer. And like I said, it's a show by a couple of fans for the fans. So thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Everyone stay safe, and go the Mighty Warriors.
Go the Warriors. Cheers, guys. Take care.